President Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong-un. South Korean conglomerate Kumho Asiana, strapped for cash, has announced as part of a rescue package that it plans to sell off its stake in Asiana Airlines, its flagship unit. And the Korea Chamber of Commerce warns that the country is losing its competitiveness in manufacturing and relying too much on too few sectors. It's 4:00 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to our afternoon broadcast. I'm Devin Whiting. President Moon says now is the time for South Korea to get ready for another summit with North Korea. In today's cabinet meeting, he said North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has made clear his commitment to denuclearize and to meet President Trump for a third time, which sets in motion a fourth inter-Korean summit for President Moon. Take a listen.
서로의 뜻이 확인된 만큼 남북 정상회담을 추진할 여건이 마련되었습니다. 북한의 형편이 되는 대로 장소와 형식에 구애되지 않고 남과 북이 마주 앉아 두 차례의 북미 정상회담을 넘어서는 진전된 결실을 맺을 방안에 대해 구체적이고 실질적인 논의를 할 수 있기를 바랍니다.
President Moon also said President Trump, when he met with him in Washington last week, agreed to continue to work together to bring North Korea back to the nuclear talks. They also reaffirmed the importance of so-called top-down diplomacy based on the trust and determination of the leaders themselves for the peace process on the Korean Peninsula. President Moon this Tuesday is going to set off on visits to 3 countries in Central Asia: Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan. The focus of his 8-day tour will be on his new northern policy, aimed at revitalizing economic exchanges between South Korea and countries in North and Central Asia. An official at the Blue House says the trip will help to further shore up relationships with those countries and lay the foundation for future partnerships through the new Northern Policy Drive. Things have slowed down in North Korea's nuclear talks with the U.S., but in the meantime, reports say Kim Jong-un is going to Russia next week. If he does, he would be likely to meet President Putin for the first time. Kan Hyung-woo reports.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un could be making his first visit to Russia next week for a summit with President Vladimir Putin. According to a source familiar with Pyongyang-Moscow relations, Putin is expected to take part in a domestic event in the Russian Far East next Wednesday, and the potential North Korea-Russia summit that has been up in the air for a while could take place there. The source said that on his way to attend Beijing's One Belt, One Road Forum at the end of next week, Putin could meet Kim Jong-un. Another source said a Kim-Putin summit is highly likely to take place either before or after the Beijing Forum, citing that North Korea has been seen making preparations for such an event. Diplomatic experts had been speculating that Kim, who has visited China 4 times already, would also visit North Korea's ally Russia, after the Hanoi summit with Trump in February did not see any agreements. In March, North Korean Protocol Chief Kim Chang-sun spent about a week visiting Moscow and Vladivostok, stirring up the possibility of the North Korean leader's visit to Russia. But neither side has officially confirmed anything about the possible meeting between Kim and Trump. Earlier this month, Russia's presidential aide Yuri Vuskov confirmed that an invitation has been handed over to the North and that Russia is waiting for a response from Pyongyang. Should the North Korea-Russia summit take place, it would be the first meeting between Kim and Putin, as well as the first summit between Pyongyang and Moscow since 2011. Kan Hyung-woo, Arirang News.
A North Korean ship that's been held for about a year by the authorities in Indonesia has recently unloaded the coal it had been carrying. The ship, called Wise Honest, had been detained by Indonesia with 26,500 tons of North Korean coal on board. And Voice of America reports that recent photos show the vessel was moved a few kilometers from where it was detained to unload the coal onto a barge, a process that took about 10 days. It was unloaded with the approval of Indonesia, which said an Indonesian individual holds a contract for the coal's sale. And citing an unnamed source, VOA reports that a Panama-flagged ship is currently taking the coal to Malaysia. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has further tightened his grip on power by giving himself yet another title, this time Supreme Representative of all the Korean people. Kim Yo-sun reports.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has added Supreme Representative of all the Korean people to his long list of titles, a sign of granting more authority to the young leader. Describing Kim's re-election as the chairman of the State Affairs Commission, the state-run Korean Central News Agency explained he also assumes the post of the Supreme Representative of all the Korean people and the Supreme Leader of the Republic. Previously, the chairman of the State Affairs Commission was only referred to as the Supreme Leader of the Republic. Analysts suggest there may have been a constitutional revision to give Kim Jong-un greater control over the totalitarian state. While the regime said it revised the constitution during the two-day parliamentary session held late last week, no further details were disclosed. Some pundits also say Kim's new title could be related to the fact he was not among the 687 deputies newly elected to the rubber stamp parliament, which was the first time in the regime's history that the top leader has not held a seat in the Supreme People's Assembly. Although it's not yet clear exactly how Kim's role will be expanded, it's certain the new title suggests greater influence at home and abroad. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
In other news, a new survey suggests that only 1 in 10 unmarried South Koreans feel strongly about having a wedding ceremony if or when they do get married. According to a survey by the Korea Institute for Health and Social Affairs, of nearly 2,500 unmarried Koreans between the ages of 20 and 44, about 44% of men and 34% of women said they generally agreed on the need for a wedding. However, only 14.5% of men and 10.8% of women felt strongly about wanting one. The Institute added that the results show Koreans are putting more emphasis on their own life choices than traditional values. In golf, one of the greatest comebacks in sports history over the weekend, Tiger Woods has won the Masters, his first major title in more than a decade. Lee Seung-jae reports.
The last time Tiger Woods won a major, his daughter was about to turn 1, and his son had not even been born. Fast forward 11 years, and Tiger would pull off one of the greatest comeback stories in sports history, winning the 2019 Masters. On top of that, for the first time in his career, Woods came from behind to win a major. In a tight race on the final day of the Masters, Woods shot a 2 under 70 for his final round to hold off 3 other major winners on his tail. The 13 under par overall finish gave Woods the famous victory at Augusta and the 5th green jacket of his illustrious career. Could his latest win be the most dramatic of all? That's open for debate. But one thing's for sure, Tiger has once again proved to everyone that he's one of golf's all-time greats. His 5th Masters victory is second only to Jack Nicklaus's 6, and his 15 major wins only trails Nicklaus's 18. Woods also became the second oldest man to win a green jacket at 43, with Nicklaus being the oldest at 46 years old. 22 years ago, at just 21 years old, Woods became the youngest Masters champion, winning the 1997 tournament by jaw-dropping 12 strokes. He would later go on to win his second Masters at 25, his third at 26, and his fourth at 29. The 14-year wait for his 5th green jacket is the longest gap between Masters win in history. With his very public divorce in 2010 to his DUI charge in 2017, as well as serious back injuries, Tiger's career seemed to have fizzled out. But Woods is no longer old news as he kickstarts his journey to try and break Jack Nicklaus's records. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
K-pop stars BTS have shattered another YouTube record with their latest music video. The video for their new title track, Boy with Love, has become the fastest ever to reach 100 million views. That milestone was reached Sunday morning, just a day and a half after its release. Music videos for BTS hit songs Fake Love and DNA, meanwhile, are at 500 million and 700 million views, respectively. Kumho Asiana Group has decided to sell its 1/3 stake in Asiana Airlines. The conglomerate owes some $3 billion to financial institutions. It's been struggling to revamp its management since its chairman stepped down last month, and its original self-rescue plan was rejected by creditors last week. Kim Da-mi reports.
In a bid to get some kind of financial support from its creditors, Kumho Asiana Group submitted a new self-rescue proposal on Monday, which includes the sale of its flagship airline unit. The group said the board of Kumho Engineering and Construction Co. has decided to sell off its 33.47% stake in Asiana Airlines, valued at over $300 million. Asiana Airlines accounts for 60% of Kumho Asiana Group's total sales, so its sale will come as a blow. Once the airline is sold, Kumho Asiana Group will become a medium-sized business with just Kumho Engineering and Construction Co., Kumho Bus Lines, and Kumho Petrochemical Co. remaining.
The decision to sell the airline shows that former chairman Park Sam-koo and his family have failed to assure their creditors that they can normalize the business or take care of the huge debts.
Kumho Asiana's previously proposed self-rescue plan included handing over the founding family's stakes as a collateral and a pledge to sell off the airline unit if it failed to meet creditors' demands in 3 years, but was rejected by creditors last week who said it failed to show sincerity. If the new self-rescue plan is accepted, Kumho Asiana can proceed with the sale process, including selecting interested bidders. Market analysts predict that the sale of the successful airline won't be an issue. SK Group, Hanwha, and SJ Group are already being named as potential buyers. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
It's time now on this Monday to check in on the market action for today and the outlook for the rest of the week. And for that, we have on the line Dr. Hwang Se-eun, Research Fellow at the Korea Capital Market Institute. Dr. Hwang, thanks for your time today.
Thanks for inviting me today.
Well, stocks on Wall Street were up in the first quarter overall, despite these concerns about earnings. Korean stocks were too. In fact, they've been rising for 11 sessions in a row now. What do you see happening this week globally and on the local market?
Okay, U.S. stocks rose thanks to solid bank earnings and a major deal in the energy sector. Treasuries, meanwhile, fell as data from China bolstered optimism in the global economy. On Wall Street Friday, the S&P 500 rose 0.66%, and the Nasdaq Composite gained 0.46%. Asian shares started on a firm footing on Monday. Japan's Nikkei jumped 1.37% to the highest since early December. South Korean stocks closed higher Monday on the back of gains in tech and chemicals. The benchmark Kospi rose 0.42%, while the Kosdaq lost 0.14%. Investors have been worried about a slowdown in global growth this year as trade disputes and tighter financial conditions hit demand. However, markets were lifted by an improvement in China's data, which saw a better appetite for risk. The market is expected to continue this upbeat mood throughout the week.
Well, as we just heard, we've got Kumho Asiana Group in a liquidity crisis, and they're saying they're going to sell off their flagship unit, Asiana Airlines. What do you see in Kumho Asiana's future? We saw stocks were up today. And how are investors taking this?
Cash-strapped Kumho Asiana Group is expected to submit a set of fresh self-rescue measures soon, including selling off its flagship unit. In a desperate move to get additional financial help from its creditors, Kumho Asiana Chairman Park Sam-koo stepped down last month as chief executive of Asiana Airlines after the company's amended financial report showed losses had widened. Kumho Asiana and its 9 creditors, led by the state-run Korea Development Bank, are in negotiations to fine-tune the self-rescue measures. They need to address the conglomerate's worsening financial status and eventually help it back on track. Shares of Asiana Airlines jumped by the daily permissible limit of 30% as its Arirang Group is widely expected to sell off its stake.
Well, later this week, the Bank of Korea is holding its policy meeting where it'll decide on interest rates. Any other events, including that one in particular, that we ought to watch?
There are a few important events scheduled on this week. The regular Monetary Policy Board meeting will be held on this coming Thursday. The market expectation for this meeting's decision is to stay neutral. The Monetary Policy Board is not in a hurry to implement any easing in policy interest rates at this point. Earnings from a broad swath of industries like financials, technology, transportation, and consumer products roll out this week as the first quarter earnings season gets underway. Earnings are expected to decline 2.3%, and it is the first negative quarter in 3 years. On the economic calendar, we have several more pieces of March data, including industrial production and capacity utilization, as well as housing starts, building permits, and retail sales. Amid those data, we will have the Fed Beige Book for April, which, alongside the March retail sales report, will probably be the most anticipated report of the week.
All right, Dr. Huang, we'll have to leave it there for today. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you for having me today.
Now, the manufacturing sector, a key driver of the Korean economy, is slowing down, according to a report from the Korea Chamber of Commerce. Kim Hae-sung has this report.
A recent report shows Korea is losing its manufacturing sector competitiveness, which is heavily reliant on its top 10 exports. According to the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Korea's top 10 exports accounted for nearly 47% of total exports as of 2017, more than 10 percentage points higher than Japan, China, Germany, and the U.S., showing Korea's high reliance on a small number of export sectors. Korea's top 10 exports have seen little change in the past decade, with 8 of the top 10 exports in 2007 also in the list for 2017. Computer parts and monitors were replaced by organic chemicals and special vessels like offshore rigs. By comparison, China saw 4 of its top 10 exports change, Germany saw 3, Japan and the U.S. 2 each. Of the world's top 5 fastest-growing manufacturing sectors, refined petroleum, telecommunications, medicine, non-ferrous metals, and precision machinery, Korea saw its global production market share in telecommunications, medicine, and non-ferrous metals drop in 2016 compared to 1995. But in the top 5 declining industries, namely paper manufacturing, fibers, special machinery, clothes, and home appliances, Korea saw an increase in global market share for all 4 sectors other than fibers. Since recording $1.33 trillion in 2012, Korea's manufacturing GDP size has started to fall, recording $1.25 trillion in 2016. The report recommended that Korea should invest more in growing manufacturing sectors and new industries like games and content. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Korea's trade ministry has unveiled new measures to boost exports from local semiconductor firms. During a meeting Monday with representatives from related organizations and companies, Trade Minister Yoo Myung-hee said the government will help local semiconductor designing and production companies find potential clients abroad. Although the specifics haven't been given yet, the ministry did say it would hold 3 trade fairs this year in China, Thailand, and Korea. The government also plans to support research and development in the field of system-on-chips, which are used in AI and IoT products, to boost competitiveness in the overall industry. Korea is planning to introduce stronger restrictions on diesel emissions to reduce fine dust pollution. The Ministry of Environment says the government is starting a 40-day legislation notice period from today to set new standards for the nitrogen oxide emissions pumped out by diesel-powered vehicles. The new regulations are expected to more accurately measure emissions because they will check numbers while the vehicles are actually on the road, unlike the in-house testings of the past. Earlier this month, Korea launched its super-fast 5G network to great fanfare here at home. Other countries took notice as well. But now there's a growing number of complaints from tourists. Oh Si-young has more.
Is the wow factor already wearing off for 5G mobile users? In the week since the country launched the wireless network for mobile phone subscribers, more than 100,000 have switched to 5G handsets and monthly plans.
But it seems they are far from impressed. There's growing criticism that mobile carriers are failing to deliver their promise of a super fast and seamless user experience.
The biggest complaint has been the severely limited access to 5G. There are only around 85,000 5G base stations installed throughout the country, nearly 86% of which are concentrated in Seoul and 5 other major cities. Users say connections have been shaky at best, even in central Seoul, forcing them to fall back on the LTE network. The lack of connectivity is not the only issue. Seemingly moderately priced, totally unlimited data plans offered by carriers KT and LGU Plus have also come under fire. What had been advertised as unlimited was actually subject to restrictions after hitting certain thresholds. This clause in the fine print has now been removed following much criticism. Still, that hasn't quelled suspicions that the apparently generous conditions may be designed to make LTE users upgrade to 5G, despite what seems to have been a premature launch of the network. With their half-baked pricing tactics and grandiose marketing, experts say telecom companies are missing the point.
If the experience is good enough, consumers will be willing to pay more for 5G subscriptions. But there's not enough optimized content. Carriers need to develop strong, diverse content using features like augmented reality and virtual reality that provide a sensational user experience. Without that, high speed and lower prices lack appeal.
In the meantime, it seems consumers have no choice but to wait for 5G to catch up.
We are at the first stage of 5G coverage, with base stations first installed in densely populated areas. When introducing 4G, carriers provided both 3G and 4G networks for a smooth transition. The same goes for 5G. However, there was high anticipation for full 5G coverage, so consumers were bound to be disappointed.
Given the higher data capacity and installation costs compared to 3G or 4G networks, industry experts say it will take 2 to 3 years for the whole country to be fully covered by a 5G network that could provide a truly seamless user experience. Arirang, Arirang News.
The world's biggest social media networks, Facebook and Instagram, as well as messaging app WhatsApp, were down on Saturday around the world for hours, and it was only a month after Facebook had dealt with its worst outage to date. Hong Yu has more.
The 3 Facebook-owned services were unavailable on Sunday for more than 3 hours, starting from 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Standard Time. The website Down Detector reported that thousands of people complained about the services not allowing them access. News feeds refused to refresh for both Facebook and Instagram, and the main Facebook.com domain was unavailable for more than 2 hours. Messages could not be sent or received via WhatsApp or through Facebook's chat service. During these hours of frustration, users turned to Twitter, and hashtags such as Facebook down, Instagram down, and WhatsApp down were trending globally. The services appear to be back up and running for most users by 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sunday's service outage comes just a month after Facebook's longest outage back in March, when users could not access the site for more than 24 hours. Facebook had blamed the server configuration change for that outage. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thanks for being with us. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.
The Chamber is the newest addition to Arirang TV's spring lineup, and it's a roundtable for the business world. We'll bring in some of the greatest panelists ranging from entrepreneurs, CEOs,